everyone, I'm Ashley. I'm the founder of GrooveSafe. Thanks for taking the time to come and learn with us today. Some of you might be familiar with GrooveSafe and the work that we do, but I imagine there are some new people here who are just finding out about the initiative. So thank you for coming and wanting to learn and find out more about how you can help. GrooveSafe is a nonprofit, and our goal is to stop harassment, unwanted touching, and sexual assault at live music events and any other entertainment settings. We want to make concerts and events safer, teach people about consent, respect for boundaries, and body safety awareness, like what is harassment, and like appropriate and inappropriate interactions. So in this bystander training today, we will go over some ways that you can support your peers and play a role in creating safer shows. The goal is to learn how to build consent culture, and you'll find out ways to do that with the focus on how to stop sexual misconduct and other unwanted advances. I guess backing up, so you guys know, I started GrooveSafe because I didn't want to see music anymore. I love going to shows. My favorite thing to do. I've been seeing concerts since I was a teenager. I've seen more shows I can even count, all kinds of bands, genres, some bands a lot more than others. But it's what makes me happy. I mean, it's my favorite thing to do. But I mean, I found out that I didn't want to go anymore. I've been grabbed and touched inappropriately so many times that I completely lost the drive, and like it was ruining my love for music. So I mean, I guess lots of my bad experiences were butt grabs or worse. I mean, someone tried to put their hand up my skirt once. That was intense. That wasn't a good day. It's hard. I mean, it's really hard. Things happen differently for everybody too. So everyone experiences trauma differently, and you never really know what someone's been through. So, you know, there's a spectrum of reactions and how things come up for people. But that being said, this is a really sensitive subject. So if anybody needs to take a break, please do step away and come back if you're ready, or follow up with me. I can let you know a little bit more about what we talk about. So if anybody needed to leave, I'll give them a second. But I would find myself at shows hunched up and looking around and so tense, constantly on guard. There was just no like getting lost in the music anymore. Couldn't go and just let go and focus on the reason that you came. It was more about your safety and who was around you and if you were okay. And I just started to realize I wasn't having fun. I just wasn't having fun anymore. I was more happy, more anxious than happy. And even like leading up to shows, I would anticipate reliving some of this stuff. And I mean, the more it happens, the worse it becomes. It all comes flooding back. Not only are you experiencing it in the moment, but you're going over and feeling the other times that it's happened to you. It can really change you. I mean, another thing that you never know when it's going to happen. A lot of the times, it's what I call the drive-by. It's very unpleasant. But it's where they grab and go, dip into the crowd. You've no idea who they are, where they went. The only thing you do know is that you're left with fear, and you're alone with these feelings, and you don't know what happened other than you feel awful and you probably want to go home. I get it. I've been there. But this like unwanted touch and harassment, it does happen, and it happens in tight spaces like you'd expect on the GA floor. You know, down in the pit, in places where you expect people to be pretty jammed in. But a lot of my experiences and a lot of the people that I talk to, it happens in the aisle, in the row, in the line to the bathroom, the line for a beer, and the line getting in. And that's yeah, physical touch. The comments and the harassment, it really happens everywhere. So I mean, I've heard such bad stories, and I've also experienced some bad stuff. I mean, it's just gross. I mean, it's really unfair. But I mean, I blame myself a lot too. I was thinking it was me that was doing something wrong. Did I deserve it? I mean, what was I wearing or whatever? And lots of dark stuff comes to your mind. But all you know is that you feel hurt, or you feel scared. Um, but you did nothing wrong. So this is definitely not your fault. I know after doing this work for 5 years, that it wasn't about what I was wearing or what I was doing, or if that person was, you know, not because they were wasted. I mean, I'm definitely not responsible for that person's buzz. It shouldn't risk my safety because they can't control themselves. Um, I mean, body safety awareness, body safety in general is taught in kindergarten. So there's just really no excuse to touch me without my permission. Just because you like something doesn't mean you get to have it. So my choices were stop seeing shows, stop seeing music, or try to change it. I didn't think it was fair that I couldn't go anymore because someone else couldn't keep their hands to themselves. And I knew I couldn't quit music. So instead, I started to talk about it. I found out so many people were going through the same thing. I knew it couldn't just be me, and I was right. And it's really hard. I mean, it's really awkward to talk about. It can be really triggering and brings up a lot of really bad stuff. But the only way to work on this and work through it is to talk about it. So if you're not ready to tell your story, that's fine. And I understand. But GrooveSafe started when I realized that it was happening a lot and it's a really big problem. So we work with bands and festivals and also venues. But today is about the fans. I really want to teach you guys, my peers, who I see shows with and who I don't know I might see shows with sometime, but it takes all of us to be involved in this, because it's about our behavior, our friends' behavior, and the fans, the fan experience. So we hear about see something, say something, but what? So this training today it goes past awareness. Awareness is only the beginning. So Shawna is going to give you some tools so you can be part of the solution. And you guys getting involved will help us shift things towards making that consent culture. And this is the stuff that everybody can do to help. So thanks for coming. Shawna Potter is going to now get started with the Bystander 101 training.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashley, so much for that. Wow, you did such a great job of demonstrating how important this issue is and how important it is that people do something about it right now. And so luckily, that's why I'm here, is to make sure that everyone watching knows exactly what to do when harassment happens at shows, and so that you're prepared to make sure that your entire community is safer when we get back to quote unquote normal. So thanks again for having me. Thank you, GrooveSafe. I want to get right into it, right? Let's go. So this is our agenda for the day. We're going to get into a few things in the next half hour or so. We're going to watch a couple of videos even. And then after the training, there's going to be a full-on Q&A session. So we might not get to your questions until the very end, but if you have a clarifying question or if I'm asking you to respond in the chat, please do. I just want to give you a couple of reminders before we get serious. Stay respectful in the chat, right? We want to hear from you, but not at the cost of hurting someone else. Leave it or leave with it. All that means is that everyone that's watching is in a different place with what they know about bystander intervention. So some have experience in stopping violence, some not. And so if something's not helpful for you in this training, no big deal, just leave it. But please take whatever you do learn with you. And then, like Ashley said, a general content warning. We are going to be talking about some serious stuff. So if you need to step away, please do so. Take care of yourself. Next, who the heck am I? Why am I doing this? Why did GrooveSafe ask me to do this training? I'm Shawna Potter. I'm a certified Hollaback trainer. I'm the co-creator of the Safer Space program, and I'm the author of a book called Making Spaces Safer. I'm also an avid cross stitcher and a musician and an amp tech, and I've slung beer and I've done sound, and I'm in the audience and I'm on stage. So I've been everywhere in a venue you could be. And I really, my big belief is that everyone deserves to have a good time. That's all I really care about. And of course, we met Ashley earlier, Ashley from GrooveSafe. Their mission includes creating a culture of consent at concerts, stopping sexual assault at shows, and emphasizing respect for personal boundaries. So important. So let's get into that first bit. How can we actually create that culture of consent? We do that by preventing harassment in the first place. There's some real basics here. So, what are the consent culture basics? We have to value others, right? It means that we value other people's feelings and we respect their boundaries. It also means given freely and clearly without undue influence. And that it's not just about sex, right? Talking about consent gets easier when we work it into our everyday interactions. So whether we're asking to borrow a sweater or share a pic on Facebook or going for a hug or a kiss or a touch, don't assume that you know what this person would say, and don't ignore the reality of their situation. We should always ask first and only move forward if we get a yes, a heck yes, right? So here's a good little cheater thing. Unless it's an enthusiastic yes, it's a no. And so we have to remember that people can freeze up. They might feel nervous. They might not want to hurt our feelings, which is nice of them. But it means sometimes it's not super clear what they want. And so if they don't know what to say, or if they're stressing out about what to say, then you don't have to stress out. So every single thing that's not a yes, it's a no. So just listen for that. And then accept that no with grace and confidence. I think one of the biggest turn-ons is someone that actually respects my boundaries, right? If people know they can trust you to respect their boundaries, even when it's inconvenient, they'll feel better letting loose around you. And then you can know that they feel good letting loose because they want to. And really, you should only ever hear the no once. There is no convincing. We're not trying to wear people down when we get it. And then, of course, some things to remember. No one is obligated to interact with anyone else. Ashley was mentioning at the top how COVID, being isolated, all of our boundaries might be different than what they were when we went into the pandemic. And so we really should start from scratch with everyone we encounter. People just might not feel comfortable for a myriad of reasons, right? They might be sick. They might just want to watch the show. They might just want to dance. They might be busy with their friends. They might be distracted. So it doesn't matter why they're not interested. Don't worry about it. It's not about you. It's about them. And that's okay. And lastly, don't forget to support victims of harassment and assault. Supporting them goes a long way to building a consent culture. So we support them by believing them and listening and providing resources when we can, like GrooveSafe. And we can also support our friends who misbehave by saying something and asking them to do better next time. So speaking of bad behavior, let's make sure we're on the same page about what bad behavior looks like. This is what we're looking for. You're looking for the things on this pyramid. Now, this sexual violence pyramid, it shows us how language and the things we might see as normal actually can create stereotypes that lead to violence. So the really terrible violent acts up there at the top are propped up by seemingly small stuff we encounter every day. And that seemingly small stuff can quickly escalate into outright violence. And frankly, the small stuff doesn't feel small to the people experiencing it in the moment, right? And so we need to see and understand like where and how sexual violence starts so that we can learn how to stop it. And remember, people that experience sexual violence are not a monolith, right? They come from all kinds of different backgrounds, varying identities, real or perceived, and they interlock and overlap, and they can affect the way that people experience sexual violence, and it could put them at a higher risk for it. Also, harassment happens everywhere, unfortunately. And the tactics I'm about to share with everyone will be useful in any public space, but of course we're concentrating on show spaces right now. And frankly, the impacts of any kind of hate violence, but specifically sexual violence and harassment, they have very negative effects, right? They can lead to anxiety, depression, the trauma builds up, creating PTSD. It can limit people's mobility. Ashley at the top was talking about just not going to shows. Like that was an option because she was tired of dealing with the unwanted touching and harassment. And frankly, that's not fair, right? Everyone deserves to have a good time. And then also it affects people financially. We've heard a ton of stories about people paying for their brother to come along with them to the show to keep them safe or whatever, when they didn't really want to go with their brother in the first place, right? And they also might get a cab on the way home instead of just take the bus or walk because they're afraid of experiencing more violence. And then just generally, experiencing a lot of violence makes people feel unsafe and it keeps them on guard. And frankly, that's not a very fun feeling, right? So we want to get rid of that. And so the best way to be a bystander is we have to take action. And frankly, there's a lot of reasons why people don't get involved. And so first, I just want to say, whatever hesitations you might have had in the past about intervening when you saw something going on, you're not alone. There are lots of common reasons why people don't intervene. And the biggest one, the most common one, is called the bystander apathy effect. And all that means is that if no one's doing anything, then no one does anything. And the best way to get over bystander apathy is person to do something, say something, interrupt the moment in some way that almost makes it okay for everyone else around to do something too. And frankly, we're in crowds a lot at shows, and so there's going to be a lot of people around that you can call on for help, and we're going to get into that. So you have 3 steps to becoming an active bystander. The very first one, you have to notice what's going on around you. I love getting lost in the music too, but every now and again, no matter what we're doing, we should go ahead, just scan the horizon, just make sure that we know everything looks okay, no one looks uncomfortable. That's what we're looking for. Also, reflect on what would prevent you from acting, because there's going to be a way to intervene that respects that, whatever your hesitation, just your personality. Some of us are more shy than others, right? There's still a way to intervene that respects who you are. So let's take a break from listening to my voice and watch a short video explaining the 5 Ds of bystander intervention. The 5 Ds are a methodology created by Hollaback, and they're proven to work in instances of any kind of harassment, but we're going to concentrate on sexual harassment and violence at shows right here. So while you watch this video, think about where you might be. Picture yourself at a show and think about how you would use each of these 5 Ds at that show.
Have you ever seen someone being publicly harassed but had no idea how to help? At that time, you might have chosen to walk away. As a bystander, you can help prevent, derail, or discourage acts of harassment. Here are 5 tactics to effectively intervene when you spot harassment, also known as the 5 Ds of bystander intervention. Distraction is a creative, non-confrontational way to shift attention and interrupt harassment. You can ask for the time or directions. Pretend you know the person being harassed and strike up a conversation about something random. Create a commotion by spilling your coffee or dropping coins from your wallet. Turn to a third party for help. Depending on the situation, you can delegate to a friend, someone in a position of authority like teachers or security guards, or peace officers equipped to de-escalate the situation. Unless it's a medical emergency, don't contact the police and check in with the person being harassed first. Many communities, like communities of color, trans communities, and immigrant communities, may not feel safer with police presence. Recording an incident when it happens can be helpful when done safely and responsibly. There are few things to keep in mind, such as make sure someone else is doing something to disrupt the harassment before you start filming. Maintain a safe distance from the incident. Film landmarks and clearly state the date and time. After filming, give the documentation to the person being harassed, giving them the power to decide what happens next. Sometimes harassers leave before anyone can intervene. You can still check in on the person targeted afterward. Some things that you can say are you okay? I'm so sorry that happened to you. Is there anything you need? Do you want to report this incident? Can I accompany you somewhere? Confronting the harasser is the most direct and riskiest intervention tactic. Before you step in, assess everyone's safety. If you feel safe to do so, you can confront the harasser by naming the type of harassment, stating what you observe. After you clearly set the boundary, turn your attention away from the harasser and towards the person being harassed and check in on them. Don't engage with the harasser and get into a back and forth. Whichever tactic you choose at the moment, remember that your action can be impactful. As bystanders, you hold the power to make a difference.
All right, so to sum up, we have direct, delay, distract, delegate, document. One of my favorite things about sharing this video with people, going over the 5Ds, is having people realize that they've maybe done some of these, that you've used some of these tactics, you just didn't know there was a word for it. So if you have, whether you've put these to work or not, we're about to put them to work right now. We're going to practice. How do we use these 5Ds? Okay, so we're going to watch another video, a very short video from TikTok. And I want you to think about, we can easily imagine what's happening anywhere there's alcohol. But think about which of the 5Ds is this guy using? Which of the 5Ds do you see? And put it in the chat.
There is this weird man making this girl uncomfortable in the store and going to pretend I know her.
Oh my god. Hi.
Oh my God, hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Who's that? Yeah. Do you wanna my aunt is here. Do you wanna
Oh yeah, really? And Claire?
Yeah, and Claire.
Oh my
Okay.
god, thank you so much.
What was he saying?
I saw. I wanted to go back to his
I was
place
watching
and
him
stuff.
from like
He's so
across the
creepy.
freaking room. He was like touching you.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for helping me.
Okay, Aunt Claire. I love fake Aunt Claire. She is my new favorite imaginary person. We might all have to pick different names, otherwise the harassers might catch on. But Aunt Claire is great because, again, if she was like, nah, this is my boyfriend, then she'd be like, I don't know who your aunt is. Sorry, I don't know you. And you go, oh, okay, cool. No worries. Sorry about that. My mistake. Over, done, great. But the second he's like, hi, how are you? She's like, hi, how are you? Oh, okay. Like, he asks, who is this? And she can't even pronounce, I don't know. She said, I don't know if you could hear it, but she goes, right? So she's so uncomfortable, and this is her way out. So which of the 5Ds did you see? Something that people often miss is that he actually is using document. He is filming it, which is why we're able to watch this. But the really great thing that he's doing is that he only has the camera on himself. So that protects the privacy of the person in the video, and we still get an educational video out of it, right? But yeah, he is using distract. Okay, so next video. Watch the scenario and tell me in the chat which of the 5 Ds you would use. And let's cross our fingers on this one.
Tryouts were.
Hey, how are you?
Oh yeah, you can take that.
How you doing?
Oh, I didn't mean you could sit there.
I thought you said I could take this. What did you mean I could take?
You could take the chair.
Oh, I was asking if this seat was taken.
Oh, no.
May I?
I don't know.
What are you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's better than the contrary. Awesome. What's your name?
Alyssa.
Alyssa, I'm Tad.
Thank you.
I see your hesitancy.
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice you were the only one hanging out over here. My intentions were to come.
Okay, let's talk about that video for a second. I call that video Uncomfortable Girl. That's what that video is called. Things to note here. At the very beginning, she actually does set a boundary, and she quote unquote stands up for herself by saying, oh, I didn't say you could sit here. I said you could take the chair. But she is not being respected. He keeps pushing. I don't want to think about what he's actually thinking. But the point is, he's purposefully ignoring her. And that's when she gets to a loss as to what to do. That's when you start to see her shift her eyes around. She said in the text at the top of the video, I gave him a fake name. You see her like messing with her neck, and she's just uncomfortable. And so this kind of stuff is really common, and this is what we want to be looking for. It seems small from the outside unless you're actually looking for it. But in this moment, she does not know what to do because she basically already said no, and he doesn't care. So we want to look for people that look uncomfortable. And then we want to use one of the 5 Ds. And so I see a lot of people are saying distract, which is one of my favorites. You can have a lot of fun with that. So what would distract look like here? That means I could go up and say, hey girl, what's going on? Are you ready to do homework? Right? Or, oh, we've been waiting for you over at this table over here. Come with us. Right? Pretend you know her, something like that. Or accidentally spill something on purpose, right? Or a number of things, right? So yeah, distract. That's a really great non-confrontational way to check in on the situation. And another thing I love about distract is that, let's say you got the situation wrong and they actually do not know each other and maybe you misread her body language, then she would feel free to be like, oh, hey, no, I don't think I know you, or I'm good. And that's it. No harm, no foul. And say, oh, my bad, sorry, and walk away. And at least then you know she's okay. And that's what I want to really make sure you're all leaving this webinar with, the idea that it is on you to intervene every single time you see something that looks off, because sexual violence and harassment is such a huge problem. We have to do something about it. We can't just hope it goes away. We have to get involved. And now a couple more examples before I give you some really great resources, and then we end with Q&A. So I want to see in the chat what your option is to this. So you see a woman and slide in close to a man who seems very drunk, and she's pushing him to take something, but he keeps turning his head away. What are you most likely to do? So put it in the chat. I want to see what are the options. Which of the 5 Ds would you use? You know, imagine yourself there. And what's your role? I train a lot of different people while you're thinking and typing. I'll tell you, I train a lot of different people and safer space tactics and bystander intervention. Some of them are staff, some of them are security, some of them are artists on stage, some are the people in the audience, and everyone has a different role and responsibility. But the really great thing is that everyone can do something. So think about your role in this moment, and what are you most likely to do? So I think I personally, because I teach this stuff and I feel like I have to set a good example or I wouldn't be allowed to teach it anymore, is I would be direct. I would be direct, one, because I know how to do that safely, but also two, it's kind of important when you have an identity that matches the person that is the potential harasser, they're unfortunately more likely to listen to you. And so if it's another woman, because again, anyone is capable of violence, anyone can be a victim. We want to make sure everybody knows that. But if I see another woman, I will most likely not feel intimidated by her. I won't feel unsafe interacting with her. Again, this is general. And so I'm assuming that this woman, I could just go up and say, hey, what are you doing? He doesn't want that. Like, do you know him? Like, say something specific to him. So I know there's a little bit of a delay in getting people's comments after I put this out here, but I'm starting to see them come through. And yeah, I see someone commenting that they're on the smaller side, and so they always want to default to distract. And I totally get it. I feel kind of small too, and so this might be one of those situations, though, where you could actually be direct. And I think it's really great for people to practice that, especially if you're socialized as someone who isn't told it's okay to be direct and say what you mean, right? I see another comment. I'd ask if they're okay. Yeah, you could go right to the man and just say like, hey, are you okay? Do you know her? And see what he says. He might say, no, I don't know what's going on. Then it's like, okay, well, let's go get you some water. Let's go to the bar where the bartender is, where there's a crowd, where you're safer, things like that. I see some people have their phone on them all the time, so they're quick to document. And that's great. But I want to emphasize something about documentation. When you document a situation and no one else is doing any of the other Ds, we're not helping that victim in the moment. Now, of course, there are cases where that's the only option. There's no other option. There's no safe way to intervene except for from a distance with your phone out. Sometimes that has to do with police. Sometimes it has to do with people are, under the influence, or sometimes there's a lot of violence, whatever. But if you can do one of the other 5 Ds, that will actually help the victim in the moment. So try, push yourself. And I'm going to go to the next example as quickly as possible so that the delay allows me to still see your comments when they finally come in. You see a man whisper into a woman's ear. She looks uncomfortable. A moment later, you see him grind dancing on her. She looks panicked. What are you most likely to do? So we saw in that video earlier what it looks like to be uncomfortable. People shift their eyes around, almost like they're like, I don't want to scare anyone, but sometimes they're like, help me, with their eyes at you. Sometimes, they fidget, they mess with something. I've even seen, and people have brought up in other trainings, how people will actually just start to shrink themselves. Isn't that strange? They'll kind of back up, not really knowing that they're doing it, and they'll make themselves small, like arms crossed, like they're protecting themselves, right? And so we want to look for that kind of stuff to know if someone's uncomfortable. And if we don't see something egregious in the moment, we want to look for someone that looks uncomfortable. Anyway, and then he starts dancing on her, and then it's clear she looks panicked, and she is probably freezing up and doesn't know what to do. And I just want to say, I could do an entire training on how our brain reacts to potentially traumatic. Okay, so while I'm waiting for comments, I'll just say that there is no right way to respond to harassment or assault. People freeze, they flee, they friend, they fight. All of those things are our brain's way of protecting us. And by the time our brain has to choose one of those things, there's no reasoning with it. You can't tell your brain, that's a silly thing to do, freeze when someone's freaking you out. Your brain is just doing what it thinks it's best, and no matter how frustrating it might be. So we should not be judging people on how they respond to their own harassment. But I see some really great options here. If she's looking around like uncomfortable, maybe you try to catch her eye and do the like, are you okay? You know, like, are you good? And then start dancing near her. And you can create like a protective dance cocoon around her, you know, like get all your friends to be like, to shut this other guy out. That would totally work. Yeah, get in between them. So that's all distraction. That's great. You could also distract the guy. You could say, hey, I think they're towing your car, or, you know, something like that, just to get them out of there. But yeah, I feel like a lot of this crowd is not into direct confrontation, and that's totally cool. And so that means sometimes you got to get creative. And I love that. And I love that someone is, so this has actually happened to someone, and someone stepped up. That's great. That's great. So it works, right? It totally works. Okay, so last practice scenario before we get to resources and then Q&A. A woman walks by your group of friends and they say things like nice ass or what I wouldn't do to her. And oh man, she's just begging for it. Acting. You're not sure if she heard them. What are you most likely to do? Think about that for a second. So it seems like for the other scenarios, people were very happy to distract, pretend that they know someone, get in the way. But these are your friends, and they're saying stuff that isn't cool. And if you remember that sexual violence pyramid that we saw at the beginning of this webinar, all those little things that seem like not a big deal actually prop up and support the more serious forms of violence. And so the best way that we have to dismantle the pyramid of sexual violence is to rip the foundation out from underneath it. So that means actually addressing every single instance of bad behavior, of harmful behavior, of sexist comments, of quote unquote jokes. We have to confront it every single time. And that can sometimes be the hardest when it's people that we know. But there's still a way to do it. So hopefully the comments will come in soon, but you could do a couple things. I already see someone would say, I would ask what's wrong with them because I wouldn't imagine them saying that. Well, I think we would all like to think that our friends would never say anything like that. But every now and again, right, we've all been surprised by someone. Maybe they say something transphobic, racist, xenophobic, ableist, sizist, you know, unfortunately, people surprise us in negative ways. So we got to be prepared, because for me, I don't know about y'all, but I freeze. I absolutely know this about myself. When I'm shocked by behavior, I go into freeze mode. And I just can't get any words out. And so when I think of everything under within the framework of the 5 Ds, it's so much easier to remember. I'm able to actually speak up quicker because I know what I have a framework to work from, you know? So I'm seeing a lot of people saying that they would be direct, and they would say, why would you say that? Why would you do that? I even like the guys, I'm right here, and roll your eyes. That might seem small, but trust me, any amount of resistance to bad behavior is worth doing. So sometimes it's just, guys, come on, or knock it off, or something, just something, say something to show your friends that, no, not everyone agrees with you. This is actually not okay. And, you know, they might rib you a little bit back, or it might take a few times, but eventually you'll get there. And one of the other benefits of doing this is that usually there's other people in the group that are saying this stuff that are just kind of following the leader. They don't actually want to say, they maybe also think it's rude, but they don't want to be an outcast. And so you actually make it okay for them to go, yeah, hold on, this is not cool of us. And so you are getting rid of bystander apathy. You're being that first person to do something, and you're making it easier for other people to do something. Yeah, loving all these comments. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so before we get to Q&A, I just want to remind you to check out GrooveSafe. Go to groovesafe.com and you can learn how to be an ally against sexual violence at shows. You could share your story. You can invite them to table. They're tabling on a very big tour this fall. Maybe Ashley will tell us more about it when she comes back. Yeah, this summer. And yeah, a lot of resources there. And if you're a band and you want to have their stuff at your merch table, just get in touch with GrooveSafe. Also, if you are someone who's experienced sexual assault, if you don't know what to do, if it's a friend or family member, whoever, you can get free and confidential support from RAINN. They have a hotline. They have an app now, which is amazing. And then you can also go to the website, rainn.org. And then if you're experiencing harassment online, you might want to check out iheartmob.org. You can learn what to do for yourself, how to protect yourself proactively, how to intervene when you see it happening to other people. It's a really great resource for online harassment. And then finally, the ACLU has a really great section about knowing your rights and how to interact with police in the safest way possible. Because we've all left a concert and we've all seen a random drug test, right? Some of us are more randomly selected than others. So it's just good to know what your options are if you or someone you know encounters police officers, especially when we're all walking to the parking lot and we're getting bombarded by them. Okay, but that's it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Let's do question and answer. And I think we're gonna have, Ashley join us again. Hi, Ashley.
Hi. So thank you. That was awesome. The first thing I was thinking about is a lot of times before I really truly studied and understood the 5Ds that Shawna was describing, my natural understanding, the one that I liked the most and the one that I had taught before I even knew it was a thing to teach was that distract. For me, it's where I feel safest. I feel best doing it. I tell people, especially in a show environment, it's loud and you don't, it's not supposed to talk during the music.
That's right. It can be hard to communicate. And so there's sometimes you don't have another option, but you're right. I think so many women are used to doing that thing where you pretend to know someone, or I personally have asked a strange man sitting next to me to pretend friend just so that someone would leave me alone for a while. So that's a really common distract. Actually, Ashley, I see in the chat, someone has a question for you. If someone approaches the GrooveSafe table at a show asking for help, what would the steps be to get them help? What do you do first?
Well, for me, the most important thing to do is to make sure they're okay in that moment. Do they need medical attention? Are they in a crisis mode? Like, are they disoriented? Are they dissociating in any way? So there's a few tips that are for more trained people. Like I'm comfortable doing stuff like grounding that person and just making sure that they're okay. So once you get them back to being okay, or they started okay, I always say, are you okay? And what would you like me to do? Do you want to sit with us for a minute? Do you need some water? Do you want me to, do you need 911? I mean, do you need medical help, like an ambulance, or do you want to talk to a security person? Or the biggest thing is just to make sure that they know that we're on their side and listening to them. And I totally believe them because I've been there. And I find from experience, people just really want to just talk about it for a minute. And a lot of people are just like, all right, great. that really sucked, but I'm gonna go back. Maze is starting. I'm gonna go back in the song rules. Whatever. So I hope that was a good kind of brief explanation, but we also have resources on the table too if someone wants to move forward, not necessarily report with law enforcement, but maybe contact an assault crisis center or local violence advocates, victim advocates. I also have information for that ready to go. So.
And tell us about the tour that you're doing this summer.
On Monday, I leave for Arkansas to represent GrooveSafe on Fish Tour. We're really excited to be a part of it. I hope that the influence of GrooveSafe on tour will continue this momentum of people really wanting to make the shows better, safer, more fun, not constantly looking over your shoulder, just going to boogie down without feeling unsafe. So we're happy to be a part of that. And, we'll be there to assist and teach and learn. And I have all of this bystander tips and training stuff available at the table too. So if you guys forget or need a reminder, we'll have some of that and other ways to make your shows better. I got buttons. You need to wear your button at the show so people know that you understand GrooveSafe, you want to be a part of it, and that you're an ally. So you can find out more about that.
Yeah, that's great. I need a button. You got to send me a button.
I'll send you lots of buttons. Yeah, you can. Anyone watching, if you aren't going to be on tour, or there's 85 artist ambassadors now, so there's that many bands who have our materials or have had the materials or support the cause. So if you're at one of those shows, you can get them from their merch table. But I do have a starter pack, a support pack on the website that you can. It's basically covers cost and shipping, and it gets to you, and you can have buttons and cards to hand out at shows or to give to your friends. And so that's the way that the street team, the kind of grassroots thing, has always been that way, where it's really by talking about it and getting that dialogue out and having people more comfortable talking about it, I guess. So
that's great. And of course, I'm going to do my part where I remind everyone that I wrote a book called Making Spaces Safer. You can find info at shawnapotter.com.
Very helpful.
So you can make every space you're in safer for everybody. So speaking of, actually, there's another question that's come in at a recent show. There was a very drunk girl. I'm going to sum this up a little bit, but basically a very drunk woman was kind of running into people. She was kind of barging her way to the front. People were being mean to her, get out of the way, being physical. And then this commenter says, they were angry that people were being mean to her. And so they went over to say, are you okay? Do you need any help? And then she got angry too. Any advice? Well, the advice there is that we have to have a little bit of patience or at least understanding that if people are under the influence, they're not their best selves in that moment. And so that doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it might explain it, and it might make it easier for you to say, yeah, I don't care if you're mad. I'm going to get you some water, you idiot. So when it comes to physical safety, medical issues, those are always going to take first priority over anything else, over getting any details, over getting a story or getting them help. If they need medical attention, if they need water, if they're falling down drunk, that's priority number one, and things can come after that. And so the only other thing that I might say is that maybe you could have gotten her water and she would have been like, oh yeah, I am thirsty actually, and drink it. Or you maybe could have delegated and told security, hey, this woman needs some help. She might need help getting home. Make sure she doesn't go home with a stranger, things like that. Because what we know about sexual assault after large gatherings, like festivals and concerts, is that they usually happen at a secondary location. So it's someone scooping up someone that's vulnerable and taking them away and assaulting them. And so we just want to make sure that no one leaves with a dangerous person.
And I felt like I had a quick thought too, that could be a delayed one too, because depending on how big the show is, if there's 20,000 people at Madison Square Garden, you might not be able to see her again. Right. But if you're at a GA show at a club or something and they're nearby, this is a different scenario, but just keep an eye on them, because that they've already had a little issue, a little problem. Maybe they snap out of it, or they find their friends, or they calm down from their angry reaction to you trying to help them.
Yeah. So. And that's what I want. I want people to know that.
Oh, you're frozen. That's okay. She's frozen. give her a second to come back.
Well, I don't know about you, but okay.
You were
Okay,
frozen.
Yeah, so I don't know about you, but I've been in that situation where I go home and I wonder, I hope that person was okay. Like I hope she knew him, and I don't want anyone to ever wonder that again. I want us to just know for sure, yeah, she's good. She's fine. He's fine. They're fine. And that means sometimes we just keep an eye on someone for a while, or we get someone else to help, or we speak to them directly. It means we have to do a little bit more than just let it go. We have to do something. And it doesn't take that much effort. It really doesn't. And then when you go home, you're not worried anymore. Everyone's fine. You had a good time, and you can have only good memories of that night. That's what I want.
Right. Let's see.
Yeah, I see another question here. I don't know who it's for, but they say, do you only work at concerts as of now, or public places as well? I'll start. I'll say that I do trainings for any kind of public space, and I tailor all my trainings to that crowd or group that wants me, and you can learn more about that at shawnapotter.com. And then Ashley, tell us what you're concentrating on, what your visions are.
GrooveSafe definitely started in the concert live music space, but now that we have advanced our training and our background and our knowledge, we are able to kind of work with, so you're saying concerts, yeah, but also venues, because venues hold other events, lectures, sports, any sort of entertainment, doesn't have to be just concerts. So once we are able to get more venues involved in the GrooveSafe initiative, then it's basically whatever is in their space, they would be able to react correctly and safely to incidents, and also prevent it by promoting a no tolerance zone, a safe place, not safe place, but like having the patrons know that their event space is aware of this problem and cares about that problem too. But I mean, yeah, so festivals also, so if the question is more than music, I think I answered it, but then we do lots of different kinds of music events too.
Yeah, and the needs are different depending on the size of the venue. Is it outdoors, indoors, Yeah.
Let's see, there's one more thing coming up.
I'll read it. It says, even at general admission shows, we're such creatures of habit that most folks go to the same spot all the time. So we can totally watch out for creeps in the same spot night after night. Yeah, and I'd say the goal is, the first priority is always, of course, the victim. I want everyone to have a victim-centered approach. Are we doing something for them right now? Is there anything we can do to help them right now? And then after that, the point is to stop the bad behavior. We don't actually want to send everybody away to another venue to repeat these bad behaviors, right? Because it'll just keep happening. So that's not the point. The point is to say, okay, you can hang out, but you got to stop doing this thing, or come back next week when you've learned your lesson. We don't want to send people away to keep repeating the same bad behavior. So that means accountability. And that's why that practice scenario about what do you do when it's your friends? That's why that scenario is so important, because when it's our friends that are saying these things, doing these things, we have to be the ones to hold them accountable until they can hold themselves accountable. We have to say, this is not okay. You have to knock this off. And so I don't know. I just want to leave people with that there's all different ways to attack this issue. Approach this issue.
Sorry. It also takes a little bit of practice, a lot of practice, and some courage and some confidence too, because for the first few times, it depends if I knew who was hurting me or bothering me or whatever, I've been able to grab their wrist and like, not cool, or, saying like, don't touch me. And then a lot of times, until I got used to it and didn't affect me, be like, whatever, bitch, and it's like, yes. Whoa, the fact that I don't want you to touch me makes me a bitch. Like, I'm confused.
Or worse. Yeah.
I mean, of course, like this is our PG-13 version.
Right.
But it's hard, and it then makes you feel worse about the way that someone already like messed with you, and then now they're going to insult you because you didn't take their advance that already probably shouldn't have happened in the first place. So it's hard. It takes a little practice, and it takes a little, toughening of your skin, which really sucks, but that's sort of how we get to it, is to be confident enough if you want to say something then.
And sometimes that's just practice. But sometimes it means knowing that the people around you have their back. And so if the bands and the venue have a GrooveSafe button or signage and are making it clear that they don't accept harassment or assault, that might give us the confidence we need to say, hey, knock it off, So I think that's really important. And I see a comment here about how do we help stop this from happening in the future. That's one of the ways, is by making it clear wherever we are, and that we resist it every single time it comes up, no matter how small it might seem. And if we put that out there, then people start to figure out that they can't really get away with that bad behavior in this space. So maybe they won't do it.
Right.
And that's just like one of the first steps towards this.
I think the next one coming in is something important for us to touch on here, is that it says, I think a lot of people think that assault is gender, and that it's just women being assaulted by men, and that person saying that that's not always the case. And I 100% agree. And I hear you.
Sure isn't.
And that it's absolutely maybe more reported by women, or maybe more
it's statistically more likely.
Yeah, right. Statistically more likely, but absolutely not the only case. GrooveSafe has also always supported a gender neutral message, that no matter how you identify, that we support you, and that your story matters to us, that you deserve respect no matter where you fall and how you identify in your life. And also, I have had lots and lots of cis males tell me they've been made feel uncomfortable, they've been touched, they've been, the grinding on them, and how awful it really is. But I think that maybe historically or systemically, men aren't as apt to tell other people that made them uncomfortable.
Right. Society actually can sometimes make it harder for them to speak up about this, or at least it's just different. And that's what we were kind of talking about at the top, about who experiences harassment, where does it happen? Anyone can experience it. It can happen anywhere. And depending on what your identities are and how they interlock and overlap and intersect, some people are at higher risk for violence. And so it's not always who we think it is. And so we have to watch out for everyone. And these tactics, the 5Ds, Hollaback's 5Ds, can be used no matter who the person is that's harassing, the victim, the bystanders. Like, they're so malleable. They'll work in nearly any situation.
Okay, yeah. I think that we're getting close. Does anyone else have something they really were thinking about that they can add now while we're here? And
I think this final one is such a great place to end, don't you, Ashley?
Yeah, I do. And it's important that people know they can always email me, teamgroovesafe at gmail.com. It is I who answers them, and I read them, and it goes directly to me. So you guys are more than welcome to share thoughts and questions that way. Also, groovesafe.com does have a testimonials page, which can be anonymous if you just want me to share a little thought there. And also, you can contact me through any of the socials at any time, and we can address anything that you're thinking about or where your needs might be on that. So
I want to read this little bit from Rebecca's comment, though. Is that okay?
Yeah.
She says, I think many of us have had poor models of how to behave, right? And so we don't always know that we've crossed a line. And so we can all learn how to be kinder and more respectful of others. And I think that's a beautiful way to go into the world trying to open back up again and getting used to being around other people again. We just need to be kind and respectful of everyone, including ourselves, because maybe our boundaries and what we're comfortable with has changed too. And so just a little patience and respect goes a long way in these situations.
Yeah, I mean, I always get so moved, like I can't, it's really emotional, because it's the amount of people that want to help usually outweighs the amount of people that want to hurt. And then so I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for Shawna, and shout out to Will, our back
Thank
end
you,
tech guy.
Will.
Made this happen, things I could not make happen. And then it wouldn't be a nonprofit if I didn't say, if you have the means, throw some donation, groovesafe.com/donate. The PayPal is /groovesafe @groovesafe. And you can absolutely find a way to donate to me. If you don't know the link, you can ask me and I will definitely give it to you. And if you guys don't have the funds, that's awesome and fine. And you can volunteer, you can help, I need all kinds of, back in. It's work, and I'll take any kind of help because we really want to keep this moving, going. Because it does take all of us. It's happened to me and probably some of you, but I would love the help to continue to make it a better place, concerts safer, you guys wanting to actually go back to them, because I do, definitely do.
That's what we want. Thank you, Ashley, for working towards that and making it easier for everybody. Thanks for having me.
And also, guys, read Shawna's book, buy it and read it. I'm going to have that link available. I have a few to bring on tour. So if you're lucky to get it before it sells, I'm going to bring them out because I read it and it helped my program so much. And it's a lot of stuff that we're using to share to other people. So make sure you at least check it out.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah.
I think, Will, we're good to go. Good to go. Say good night. Thanks, you guys.
Good night, everyone.